You all are welcome to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like and share so that you will be first to get all my newly update videos. Thanks a lot. Kash Patel's shut relationship with ex-president should grant data on how archives ended up at Trump's resort. The Justice Branch is weighing whether to supply immunity to the Trump advisor Kash Patel and pressure his testimony about claims that noticeably touchy authorities' archives the FBI seized from the former president's Mar-a-Lago inn were declassified, in accordance to sources acquainted with the matter. The popularity of the files has emerged as applicable to the crook investigation surrounding Trump's mishandling of country-wide protection substances, since it should improve a practicable case that the former president was in violation of country secrecy laws. Trump and advisors such as Patel have claimed over and over, because the FBI search in August, that the files bearing classification markings determined at the property had in truth been declassified before the former president departed the White House. The claims that the files were declassified have not been supported via evidence, however, and Trump's attorneys have not repeated the assertions in an associated criminal dispute before a judge or in court docket filings, where they ought to face penalties for lying. Justice Branch officers are analyzing whether to permit federal prosecutors to or trying to find an order from the chief U.S. District Court docket judge in Washington, Beryl Howell, granting Patel restricted use immunity to compel his testimony on the declassification difficulty and different matters, the sources said. The consideration for Patel seems to middle on the truth that as one of Trump's appointed representatives with the National Archives, he ought to provide cloth perception into the nature of the archives and how the former president viewed the records. And as a confidant to Trump with whom he keeps a shut private relationship, Patel seems to be in a function to talk to extra areas of activity in the investigation, such as about how the archives came to give up at Mar-a-Lago and how Trump spoke back to requests for their return. Patel is an ardent Trump loyalist who commenced the Trump administration railing in opposition to the Russia investigation when he served on the House Brain Committee's Republican workforce and ended it as chief of workforce to the protection secretary. Trump regarded putting in Patel as deputy CIA director in the weeks after the 2020 election, till he was dissuaded via attorneys in the White House counsel's office. Patel remained at the Protection Department, which delayed the deployment of the country-wide defend for hours throughout the Capitol attack. The Justice Branch is largely averse to granting immunity, which gives ensures an opposition to prosecution based on testimony or statistics derived from testimony, because it can doubtlessly make bringing expenses towards the individual in the future extra difficult. The approval should additionally come from the pinnacle echelons of the Justice Department in accordance to guidelines, and the choice for prosecutors to reap testimony is to have defendants plead responsible and then have them provide cooperation for a decreased sentence. In considering granting use immunity to Patel, the Justice Branch would in actuality be weighing whether to forego a case in opposition to him in order to tightly close testimony that should lead to setting up a case in opposition to a greater massive goal, such as Trump, a former U.S. lawyer said. The Justice Branch had sought testimony from Patel when he was summoned to testify before a grand jury in Washington, listening to proof about Trump's achievable mishandling of country-wide safety substances and obstruction when he resisted requests for their return, one supply said. But Patel asserted his fifth modification proper towards self-incrimination to an array of questions at the 13 October appearance, the supply said, although the foundation for some was not clear, even if the files were not declassified, making false public statements would probably not be a crime. In the obstruction investigation surrounding Trump via the former one-of-a-kind advice Robert Mueller, for instance, prosecutors concluded that the former president's false statements about his campaign's ties to Russia would solely have been crook if he made them to Congress or the FBI. That led to the Justice Branch searching for a listening to before Howell, the supply said, where prosecutors disputed Patel's groundwork for declining to testify. However, the chief judge commonly agreed with Patel's attorneys that he ought to moderately consider he had motive to assert